Rahul Johar. That was how you were born, right?
I was born as Rahul Kumar Johar.
Rahul Kumar Johar. Oh my
That's
God.
my Janam Patri name.
Oh God. But I wonder if your father looked down upon you now, he would be so proud of you, Karan, because you also emerged as a sort of elder statesman, voice of the industry, and he was always everybody's best friend. In a way, so are you. He was always out there to help everyone. He would be a very proud man today, wouldn't he?
I hope so, Kaveri. I think about him nearly every day.
Right.
So for me, I have a firm belief that when you lose a parent, you gain a God. And to
Yeah.
me, my faith in prayer really comes from my faith in praying to him.
Right.
So when I'm in any kind of a turbulent situation, any kind of crossroad, I always turn to two things. Either I talk to him or I think, what would he have done? Because
Right.
I worked very closely with him. I saw him very closely about how he dealt with people. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I imbibed from him. He always said films could be hits and flops. Relationships have to be blockbusters.
Right.
And
Wonderful.
I think that I've kind of tried. It's very tough at times because I think he was made out of something else altogether. I try to kind of be the man he is. I fall short many a time and I achieve it sometimes. But he's definitely my barometer, my emotional and my professional barometer.
And as a father, is that something that you're raising your kids with some of that philosophy?
Yes, in the power of goodness and being kind to
Yeah.
each other and people around them. And also, what I'm trying to do with a little bit of a modern twist is not to kind of stereotype and slot them into boxes, which we tend to do with our kids. Because I
Yeah.
have a boy and a girl, it's surprising the politically incorrect things we say to our children on a daily basis. And we
Right.
don't realize that we are creating a fabric of thought within
Yeah.
them that can impact their lives ahead.
Right.
And you'll hear things like don't cry like a girl, or
Yeah.
boys don't wear
Boy.
pink, and
Yeah.
boys are
Exactly.
brave and girls are, no, don't hit her, she's a girl. I
Yeah.
mean, like, I that's the one thing I've inculcated within the ecosystem of my upbringing and in my environment. None of these things are allowed to be said. For
Right.
me, they're both the same. Boy, girl, no difference, because I know as a child, I was a very effeminate child.
Right.
And I know the trauma I went through, and I know how it impacted me and how it upset me and how it played on my mind. I don't want my children to be victims of stereotype. That's
Right.
the one thing that I do. More than my father's teachings are the teachings that I've learned with my ear to the ground in the recent past.
But you worked so hard on yourself, Karan, didn't you? You worked on your voice, you worked on your appearance, you worked on your intellect. I mean, you've been sort of a work in progress.
Aren't we
You know,
all?
yeah,
Aren't we
we
all?
are.
I
But
think
you really put in a lot of effort.
in a sense you have to, because the one thing that I think people sometimes tend not to do is acknowledge their weaknesses,
Yeah,
or rather not even, sometimes not even their weaknesses, but their shortcomings or things that could limit their growth in society and in their
yeah,
zone. That's the one thing. I've always been open to knowing what's wrong with me and what I
right.
think I need to, and not even wrong. Like when I was an effeminate child, there was nothing wrong about it.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was just the
but
way you
I,
were.
but at that point in time, I didn't know better. So I remember working on that, trying to, not that I came out like Rambo at all. I'm not even saying that, but I'm proud of who I am today and what I stand for. But I remember I went through a journey of realizing that you have to find pride in yourself
Yeah,
and who you are. But when I grew up in the 80s, Kaveri, it was a tough time. It was
absolutely.
like we were always slotted. It's like
Yeah,
if you were not playing football and cricket and basketball, you were a pansy.
exactly.
If you hung out with the girls, you were effeminate and a girl yourself.
Right.
You know, but there was no such thing as friend zoning in those days. Like if a boy hung out with a girl, there was no such thing as friendship. There was
Yeah,
sex on their mind. So it's like today things are so different. I mean, I know you have children and you know what's happening around you.
yeah, yeah. Karan, can I ask you, when you look around at some of the new stars in the Mumbai film industry as well, do you sense that the era of the Khans as we've known it, for 30 years, they've entertained us, amused us, you know, do you think it's coming to an end?
I don't think that era can ever end.
Yeah,
Because it's omnipresent. Like just
yeah,
the other day, I want to tell you, I was speaking to like a platform, an OTT
yeah,
platform head, and they were telling me that the maximum viewed content right now are
Right.
all these classics that were in the 90s. There were Hum
Okay.
Aapke Hain Kaun and Kuch Kuch Hota Hai and Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge,
Yeah.
and all these films. I think that they have, the Khans as we know them are not only mega stars. So every generation has had this triumvirate.
Right.
There was Devanand, Raj Kapoor, and
Dilip
Dilip Kumar,
Kumar.
and there's
Yeah.
Shah Rukh, Aamir, and Salman. And in many, many ways, they've created a certain stock of greatness in cinema that we are always going to visit.
Yeah.
Now, I'm today 48 years old. Some of them are in their 50s. So obviously the kind of work we do, or rather the material we put out will be age appropriate. And
Right.
that cannot change. But will that legend, and be it Akshay, Ajay, Aamir, Salman, Shah Rukh, will the stories of these legends of cinema, will they ever evaporate? They can never. Will they
Right.
diminish? Never. Will they dilute? Never. Because their omnipresence in cinema is so apparent on a daily basis. They are either a reference or they are a reality. So
Right.
you can't run away from both.
Right.
And they're always good. Their brilliance is always, like Mr. Bachchan, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine Indian cinema without his presence?
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
And he's withstood storms, he's withstood criticism, he's withstood turbulence within and externally and internally, and has yet emerged as the biggest motion picture movie star there is in Indian cinema. These men, these illustrious men and women, I have to say, a lot of the women
Yeah.
are standing tall even today.
Right.
And I think times have changed now. Acceptance of the past by not treating it like the past, but acknowledging its brilliance is the order of the day today.
Right. Among the younger ones, who do you look out for in terms of who are the ones that you would back? I mean, obviously Ranveer. Who are the people that
I mean,
you
they're
are?
doing some really solid work.
Yeah.
Both. I mean, I find like the young generation is so. It's absolutely. What do I say? They're such relentless achievers and
Yeah.
relentless givers to the medium.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure to direct Ranbir Kapoor.
Right.
I was going to direct Ranveer Singh.
Right.
I've launched like Sid, Varun, and Alia.
Alia.
And I'm now working with Ishan and Janvi and Ananya and all these, and I just see that there is a manicness to achieve and create moments in cinema that comes with a lot of work that they put in. When I directed, Shah Rukh a lot in the 90s, we came on set and created magic. A lot of it was just created. We didn't even know. Shah Rukh would give a suggestion and I would say, why not? Let's try it. And it becomes a moment later on in cinema.
Yeah.
With these guys, they come with truckloads of work.
Right.
And yet they leave that space to create magic. I find that quite charming in many, many ways. When I directed with Ranbir, when I did Air Dil, and I have to tell you, we had a great way. We had a director-actor rapport. He would come and tell me right before the shot. He said, give me 1 or 2 words about what you want me to express in this moment or in this scene. Before every scene, he would come. And I would say, huge heartburn, heartache, pain to another level. He would say, okay. Or I would say envy, but silent envy. Or I would say false exuberance.
Right.
Or I would say play Hindi film hero here. And that's how we directed. And he said, don't say anything else. Just give me 2 or 3 adjectives.
Right.
We played this like a game, Kaveree, and it worked like magic.
Right.
And I'd never had that experience directing someone like this. Where he just said, give me these 2-3 words. And I love that there was this give and take that we had. And I look forward to directing a lot of these younger actors, be it Ranveer Singh, Ranbir, Varun, Sid, Tiger, all of them, so many. And the girls, Alia Bhatt, oh my God. I feel like when I directed
You're like her second father, Karan.
I totally am. But I always say that her emotional launch was Student of the Year, but her professional launch was Highway.
Right.
That's where... Like I brought her into the movies, but I didn't give her the craft that Imtiaz Ali gave. Eventually he gave her the craft and then she took it to an altogether different level. And I actually can't wait to direct her because I feel I'll be directing a new actor because I haven't directed this brilliance that I've seen in film time and again. Every time I see her, Kaveree, I'm like, she's gifted. Like, not because I don't want to take any credit, but I think nobody can. She's like the good universe's good product.
She really is wonderful. And I think Dear Zindagi was, again, one of her finest performances. She was just so
Amazing.
good in it.
Amazing. I remember Shah Rukh, I have to say that once I was on set and Shah Rukh and she were doing this long scene and Gauri had really rehearsed with them. And Gauri is a very meticulous filmmaker. She
Right.
really rehearsed them and then they did the shot. The shot finished. And I know because I've worked with Shah Rukh for so many days
Yeah.
of my life.
Yeah.
But I've very rarely seen him do something like this. He got up and he just put his hand on her head and he said, "You're blessed."
Yeah.
And he
True.
and he just said that to her and he went back to doing what they were doing. And she was like, "Oh my God," like, whatever. And I know that he said that she's special. He just said
Yeah.
she's very special. And I know with Shah Rukh, that's a big compliment because
Right.
it doesn't come very often. I've yet to get that hand on my head saying I'm blessed.
You will. But he was also wonderful in Dear Zindagi. I
It was
think
amazing.
there was a certain
We all want a
honesty in it.
sexy therapist
Oh,
like that.
yeah, man. For sure. Karan, we have a lot of questions from our viewers, and they're very excited to ask you. So I'm going to start by asking a few. Uh, we have Vikash Agarwal from ICC who wants to ask a question. Vikas, you want to go ahead? I think
Yeah,
he's
surely.
yeah, please. You want to ask your
Thank you,
question?
Kaveree.
Hi,
Yeah.
Vikash.
Hi, Karan. How are you? Hope you're doing well.
Very, very well. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good
Karan,
to hear you.
I'll put my video on.
Hi, Vikash.
Karan, I created a lot of crisis in a like I come from textile industry,
Right.
challenges and hardship. So, like you being the forefront of your entertainment industry or film industry, how do you foresee your industry handling this crisis effectively and come out of this?
Well, Vikash, thank you. It's been an ongoing concern that we all have right now. And as you know, that we pressed a pause button in all our lives. And I have a great, I don't want to sound poetic and sound also ambiguous, but this is a crisis and we all have to deal with it. So I think we'll have to make two kinds of changes. One is internal, which is the content we make needs
Right.
to be more contained. Content that doesn't make us spread our wings too wide, because there will be about a year before we can come back to our full-fledged force that we were running on before the crisis hit us. The other is external changes, which is to make sure that the SOPs that are kind of adhered to, which is like set protocol, making sure that everyone is kind of safe and protected, and therefore protecting the lives around us on set. So there will be massive internal and external changes that we will have to imbibe for us to kind of make sure we can survive this one more year. Because now is not the time of growth, it's the time of survival.
Right.
And we are very resilient and we will survive.
Karan, but do you see any change that you will make in your filmmaking? Will you make it more intimate? For instance, the sets that you constructed for
Well,
Tuck in
I
Bombay.
mean, fortunately, with Takt, which are very dependent on also computer graphics, etc.,
Right.
a lot can be achieved,
CGI.
visually through technology.
Right.
Having said that, I'm not thinking that far right now because we have so many other situations at hand right now. But
Right.
yes, there will have to be a regroup and a rethought of even the content itself. We'll have to kind of make sure that whatever we put out there is much more in a contained zone, as opposed to, so we'll have to tweak the writings of films, and we'll have to tweak mindsets and tweak the way we look at our content, especially in the next year.
But Karan, you've already experimented with streaming, and in fact, I think some of your finest work has been in Bombay Talkies and Lust Stories.
Yeah.
It was a very, I really enjoyed that episode the most.
Yeah.
But and Ghost Stories. So in a way, you've already sort of adapted to that platform as well. You want to talk about how you did that?
Well, initially Bombay Talkie, a theatrical experience, so that was not an OTT. Then there was, and Love Stories, we began as theatrical and it went into the Netflix zone. I actually enjoy that platform very much. And there's a lot of debate about theatrical versus OTT platforms. And I have to say that both have very strong powers of their own, and nothing can grab them of their intrinsic powers. And I think one is actually helping each other. Now,
Right.
this is when we think about the time, this was before the pandemic hit us.
Yeah.
Someone asked me whether OTT platforms are a threat to theatrical experiences.
Yeah.
And I said, not at all. Now, OTT platforms are very writer heavy. They're a writer's medium.
Right.
And that empowerment of writers is actually helping the writers to create much better cinema as well. And so our content has
Right.
improved in the last 2 years only because the writers have been empowered. And that's only happened because of the OTT empowerment that has
Right.
happened. So
Right.
one is helping the other. They are coexisting. Both solid platforms that are giving more verticals of even economies to the movie industry. Right now, there are some films that are going straight to digital. That's only because it's a logistic issue.
Yeah.
But eventually, the cinemas are going nowhere. They
Right.
are the heartbeat of and locationally, emotionally, they are the place where we go and experience large scale cinema.
Right.
Silver screen will always shine. It's going nowhere. So for all those people who are making all kinds of extreme statements about the death of cinema, there is no RIP happening of cinema. There's only progression and there is enhancement. It'll, of course, take a few months before that can happen. But let me tell you, there is never going to be the end of cinema. It cannot go anywhere. It's what we breathe on a daily basis. Similarly, OTT platforms are empowering writers and directors, solid actors. Each one is giving to the other. And I think there's a huge benefit. And eventually someone asked me whether I'm exaggerating when I say, and I say I'm not at all, that we are heading, and I kid you not, in a decade towards the resurgence of the golden period of Indian entertainment again. And it'll only be because we don't have one platform, now we have two.
Right. Have you watched anything of late which has really excited you on OTT?
Yes, I've seen lots. Of course, I saw Patal Lok, which I absolutely loved.
Absolutely.
Loved. I've seen a very like an indie show called Pushpavali, again, which I absolutely loved with Subhuki Suresh and her team.
Yeah.
Great job. I think that Netflix has done, and a lot of the worldwide Netflix content that I've seen. There's a Japanese English show called Giri Haji, which I strongly recommend people watch.
That's right.
It's absolutely fantastic. And
That's-
obviously everyone has seen Fauda, all 3 seasons of Fauda. But I'm also enjoying, like the other day, I just started watching a show called Unorthodox, which is amazing again on Netflix. So the Netflix world market has opened up for me. And I'm enjoying watching, like I saw another show that I have to say is called Into the Night. It's again made, I think it's Belgian. It's a Belgian show, but they're speaking French and there's that.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing concept. Amazing. So I've seen a lot of this international content, be it Giri Haji, Into the Night, Fauda, Unorthodox. These are amazing, spectacular shows apart from what we're creating in India. Like I've binge watched Patal Lok and Pushpavali and I'm really excited. And I can't wait actually now for more and more content to keep coming out. We ourselves made a film called Guilty on Netflix that did really well.
Yeah.
It was Kiara's. Kiara seems to be synergized beautifully with Netflix. Love Stories and Guilty. And we have a host of
powerful film. Guilty was a very powerful film.
That was Dharmatic. That was Dharmatic's very first foray. We have an exclusive deal with Netflix, and that was our first foray into that deal.
So, is there a lot more happening from on that front from Dharmatic?
Yes, we have. I don't want to reveal details, but we have a host of exciting things coming up. With Dharmatic Netflix marriage is going to be a happy marriage.
Great. Okay, so we have a few more questions. We have a lot more questions, but I'll keep it to a minimum. I'm sure you have to go and video your babies again.
Yeah, my 2 actors are waiting for me. They're on standby.
I'm sure. You're a father now, and in the Indian context, yours is an unconventional family. Do you feel the need to make movies that will be more inclusive and appeal to more unconventional families out there? Or do you think such a movie would tank in a close-minded country? Interesting question.
But already been answered by a film called Kapoor and Sons.
Yes. So wonderful.
An unconventional family film, directed and written beautifully by Shakun Batra with his writing team, Aisha Devitre, and it was unconventional. I mean, a protagonist was gay within the context of a traditional Indian family, and they touched upon even success and failure, economic success and failure,
Right.
sexuality,
Right.
tussle with parents, the feeling of loss. So I think, yes, I believe all families have shades of dysfunctionality, and
Right.
I think if you project it as a beautiful happy family situation, it would not strike the right chord. So yes, I would like to tell that story, but I feel Shakun already has done and set the benchmark so beautifully, I may not be able to replicate or emulate that.
And we can't get Fawad Khan back.
What's your next question, Kaveri?
Oh, we can't get Fawad Khan back. But seriously, Indian cinema is slowly getting past the dance and music era and moving into solid storytelling. You being such a fan of flamboyant cinema, can we expect to see a non-musical from you anytime soon?
अरे नहीं यार, नहीं होता अभी ना.
नहीं होता.
I feel मैं एक ऐसे उम्र पे पहुंच चुका हूं that I don't want to sacrifice my big loves of Indian cinema, which are गाना बजाना, नाचना, गाना. These are things I grew up on. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't suddenly play act like I want to be subtle and nuanced, and I think I have other platforms I've done that with.
Yeah.
When I told Bombay Talkies or Love Stories, I kind of I kind of played the field, so to say,
Yeah.
by going against my own grain. But I feel like I would never be able to direct a feature film without music,
Yeah.
without some element of hyperreal. Something to should be a little bit that strikes a chord that is me.
That is Karan
Otherwise,
Johar.
there are enough and more fantastic filmmakers doing such beautiful, realistic cinema. Unko karne do. मुझे अपना करने दो.
How have you been able to stay positive in this lockdown?
I'm very fortunate that I have a very, very positive house. Like, I have 2 children that can't help but make me positive, because every morning I wake up to sunshine, and when you have the sun shining on you, even when it's gloomy and dark, that's a big plus to have. I have a very, very supportive and positive mother.
Yeah.
So the environment around me is
Who's
positive.
also being tormented by you, by the way.
Yes, I know. She told me, I don't like it that you come unannounced with your camera, and you'll have to start paying me if you keep doing this. And of course, there is the Sindhi blood that I have. She's full Sindhi and I'm half. So there is a monetary negotiation that may have to happen. But let me tell you secretly, I think she's enjoying it as well.
Yeah.
If you've noticed, she comes a little tayyar always, because she knows the camera just might find its way on her.
But I love the scene where your children are taking the bags and going to the airport. I think that's way too cute.
And they've never been to an airport, Kaveri. They've never
Oh,
stepped
really?
foot into an airport. They don't know what a plane looks like. They've never been. They've just imagined these things from the books they've read.
Wonderful.
They want to go and meet Peppa Pig in London. That's their big desire.
Wow. Do you read to them?
Yes.
What do you
Many
read to
times.
them? What do you read?
I mean, a lot of illustration books, that are there, because their focus and bandwidth is very limited. Like, so when they're long passages, they get a bit lost. So a lot
Right.
of the illustration books that are like one note books, one line books, it's amazing how many there are. I don't even
Right.
remember the names, but I try and read to them every other day.
Okay. And I think this is quite a sad question, but I will ask. What has been the saddest moment of your life? Have you come to terms with it?
I think losing my father
Yeah.
was very much my brush with sadness and tragedy. And have I come to terms with it? Well, that's always a very tough question to ask someone who's lost a loved one, because
Yeah.
I don't want to come to terms with it.
Right.
Coming to terms with it would mean ending that pain and that sadness. But that sadness is something I don't want it to end, because it also empowers me in ways. It gives me a certain kick on a daily basis. And there's a line in a Hindi song, कि राही मनवा दुख की चिंता क्यों सताती है, दुख तो अपना साथी है.
Right.
सुख है एक छांव ढलती आती है जाती है, दुख अपना साथी है. So I look at sadness sometimes as a very positive thing, because I feel that we always look at it with a vision of like, oh my God, so sad. But sometimes that sadness also strengthens us. I'm a firm believer of that thought.
So, Karan, you're a very emotional person. I mean, you're either very happy or you're very sad, or are you more sort of balanced and, moderate?
I'm a bit zen. I think I've realized that I've become a bit like, I've become much more calm in crisis,
Yeah.
much more sorted in like a sea of turbulence. And I also, but the sad thing is that I've also lost some celebration in me. Like there used to be times when there was a good thing that happened, I would really exuberate that enthusiasm. वो नहीं होता अभी. Like that kind of curbed my enthusiasm a little bit. That's
Why
the
is
one
that?
thing that I need to bring back.
Have you become a little cynical?
No, I've just become a little worried because I always feel like the next stop after celebration is some kind of disaster. It's some weird kind of order of things that happen. So I feel if I don't celebrate this, then maybe something terrible won't happen.
Yeah. Karan, we can talk to you all night, but I know you have lots of other things to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaveree. Thank you.
Such a pleasure to talk to you always, and it's always such a learning experience.
Thank you, Kaveree. Lots of love to you. Stay safe, and my love to everyone at home.
Thank you very much. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you. Take care.
Bye.